Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Officials in Gaza say Israel's killed 113 Palestinians over the last day, including 33 people seeking food. Al Jazeera reports an Israeli drone strike killed several children who were in line for water in Al-Mawasi, which has been designated a safe zone. This comes as Israel intensifies its attack on Gaza City, where Israel's attempting to forcibly remove the city's entire population of over 1 million people. On Tuesday, mourners gathered at Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City to hold prayers for those killed in Israeli strikes.
They had gone out to get clothes. We fled our homes with nothing. They went to get clothes and to get food from their homes, to bring clothes for their children and to get food for themselves because of the situation. We are sitting in tents. We fled with nothing. And look now, they came back as martyrs. And most of the martyrs are either from the Zakim crossings, because they were getting aid, or from when they went to bring clothes, a blanket, or a mattress to sleep on.
Israel has begun mobilizing 60,000 reservists for its push into Gaza City. Here's Eyal Zamir, the chief of staff of the Israeli Armed Forces, speaking with reservists.
We are preparing for the continuation of the war, continuation of fighting. We are going to enhance and deepen our operation, and that's why we called you.
Meanwhile, hundreds of Israeli army reservists say they will not report for duty if they're called to serve in the Gaza City offensive. At a Tel Aviv news conference, Sergeant Max Kresh said, quote, "We are over 365 and counting soldiers who served during the war and have declared we will not report for duty when called again," unquote. Meanwhile, protesters in Jerusalem took over the roof of the National Library building overlooking the parliament, calling for an end to the war. Israel's army radio reported 13 protesters were arrested.
We came here today to demonstrate in front of the House of the Parliament, to demonstrate and to tell them to bring our hostages back home and to end the war. We need our soldiers back home. We need our hostages back home now. It's been too long for them to stay there. Stop the war now.
Belgium will recognize a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly this month, according to the country's foreign minister. It comes as France, Britain, Canada, and Australia have all announced they were also prepared to recognize the state of Palestine at the UN General Assembly. Belgium also plans to impose 12 sanctions on Israel, which include a ban on all products from illegal settlements in the West Bank and a review of public procurement policies with Israeli companies. This comes as the Trump administration faces growing criticism for suspending visas for Palestinian passport holders, including for Palestinian officials set to attend the annual UN General Assembly. President Trump said Tuesday the U.S. attacked a boat in the southern Caribbean, killing 11 people. Trump claimed the boat was carrying drugs from Venezuela, but offered no proof of the claim. The Pentagon recently sent warships to the region after Trump secretly authorized the use of military force in Latin America under the guise of the war on drugs. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has repeatedly warned Trump is seeking regime change in his oil-rich country. This is Maduro speaking Monday.
Mr. President, Donald Trump.
Mr. President Donald Trump, you must be careful because Marco Rubio wants to stain your hands with blood. South American, Caribbean, Venezuelan blood. They want to drag you into a bloodbath, to tarnish the Trump name forever with a massacre against the Venezuelan people, with a terrible war across South America and the Caribbean. This would be a full-scale continental war. They want to stain Donald Trump's hands with blood.
In immigration news, a U.S. federal appeals courts blocked President Trump from rapidly deporting Venezuelans suspected of being gang members under the 18th century Wartime Alien Enemies Act. In a 2-to-1 ruling, the Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals granted a preliminary injunction, quote, to prevent removal because we find no invasion or predatory incursion has occurred. The Fifth Circuit is considered to be one of the most conservative appeals courts in the United States. The case is expected to head to the Supreme Court. We'll have more on this story later in the broadcast. A federal judge has ruled the Trump administration broke the law when deploying the National Guard to Los Angeles this summer to quell protests against immigration raids. U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer raised concerns that the deployments are, quote, creating a national police force with the president as its chief, unquote. The ruling comes as President Trump said, quote, we're going in when asked about federal troop deployments to Chicago and Baltimore. He repeatedly called both cities a hellhole. Yesterday, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker was joined by Chicago officials when he reiterated his opposition to federal troops in Chicago.
Trump and his team will be looking for any excuse to put active duty military on our streets, supposedly to protect ICE. We have reason to believe that the Trump administration has already begun staging the Texas National Guard for deployment in Illinois.
We'll speak with Democratic Congressmember Chuy Garcia of Chicago after headlines. In other immigration news, Bloomberg's reporting ICE is about to get access to a controversial spyware program built by the Israeli-based company Paragon. A $2 million contract was signed last year, but the Biden administration then issued a stop order blocking government agencies from using the spyware, which has been used to target activists and journalists in Europe. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has authorized up to 600 military lawyers to serve as temporary immigration judges. The head of the American Immigration Lawyers Association, Ben Johnson, warned the decision will gut due process and undermine the immigration court system. He told the Associated Press, quote, it makes as much sense as having a cardiologist do a hip replacement. We'll have more on this story later in the broadcast. The House Oversight Committee has released over 33,000 pages related to the federal investigation into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell. But according to Democratic lawmakers, 97% of the files were already public, and the files are just a tiny fraction of the total documents. On Tuesday, a number of Epstein survivors met privately with House Speaker Mike Johnson and a bipartisan group of members of the House Oversight Committee. Meanwhile, Republican Congressman Thomas Massie and Democrat Ro Khanna are holding a news conference today with Epstein survivors. Massie has also filed what's known as a discharge petition to force a floor vote to compel the Justice Department to release all of its Epstein files. If every Democrat backs the measure, Massie will need the support of 5 other Republicans for the move to succeed. A group of Epstein survivors and family members have also done a joint interview with NBC News' Hallie Jackson. She asked them about their interactions with the Justice Department.
Show of hands, did any of you hear from the Justice Department before they released that memo, that 2-page memo earlier this summer? No hands. Were any of you told that Todd Blanche would be speaking with Ghislaine Maxwell prior to that interview over the course of 2 days?
No.
No. Were any of you told about the prison transfer that Ghislaine Maxwell?
No.
Do any of you feel that the DOJ has communicated with you enough this year?
No.
Have any of you had any communication with the DOJ?
No.
Chinese President Xi Jinping hosted Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and other world leaders at one of the largest military parades in Chinese history today to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. For the first time, China unveiled its triad of nuclear-capable missiles as thousands of Chinese troops goose-stepped across Tiananmen Square in Beijing. In a post on social media, President Trump addressed President Xi, quote, "Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America," Trump wrote. Putin and Kim also met on the sidelines of the military parade. Putin reportedly thanked Kim for sending North Korean troops to fight in Ukraine last year. In Brazil, the trial of former President Jair Bolsonaro has entered its final phase. Bolsonaro and 7 of his allies are accused of plotting a coup after he lost the 2022 race to Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. On Tuesday, the court indirectly criticized the Trump administration for interfering in the trial. Justice Alejandro de Moraes, who has been sanctioned by the U.S., said from the bench, quote, "We will never lack the courage to reject those who threaten our national sovereignty or the independence of the judiciary." On Tuesday, President Lula criticized the U.S. meddling.
Tem por que ficar temendo a acusação americana.
There's no reason to fear an American accusation. What's happening with the U.S. is that it has exacerbated anything we've known in the history of humanity, of a government meddling to judge the conduct of another country's justice system.
A U.S. federal judge ruled Tuesday Google does not need to sell its Chrome web browser, but it does need to share its search data with rivals. The ruling's widely seen as a victory for Google, as the Justice Department has asked the judge to force Google to share more of its data and sell Chrome in an effort to break up Google's power as a search monopoly. Google's still scheduled to go on trial in a separate case brought by the DOJ about its monopoly in online advertising. And President Trump's nominee to lead the Bureau of Labor Statistics, E.J. Antony, reportedly discussed gender differences in IQ scores with interns at the Heritage Foundation. According to the Washington Post, Antony remarked that women's scores clustered around average IQ scores, while men were more likely to display scores at the higher and lower end of the distribution. Antony would replace Erica McIntyre, who Trump fired after he accused her of changing a jobs report that showed lower than expected employment growth. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Democracy Now!'s Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.